Hi guys and gals, Tom here from Aotearoa Gaming. Today we're going to be putting together a media/entry gaming PC. So to start off with, the parts we will be using today are an AMD 6600K APU, which is clocked at 3.9 GHz stock, paired with a Gigabyte GA-F2A88XN WIFI board, 8 GB of Corsair Vengence LP 1600 MHz RAM, Evga GTX 750 FTW as a graphics card, a Seagate 500 GB SSHD for the operating system, and a Seagate 2 TB HDD for the storage, a Seasonic 450 watt power supply, and all of which we will be putting into a Bitfenix Prodigy. So let's get started. Alright guys, so having used a Corsair H55 to cool the CPU, we've allowed ourselves a lot of headroom for overclocking the CPU. So first we bump up the voltage to 1.35 volts, followed by upping the multiplier to 45 times to achieve a 4.5 GHz overclock on the CPU, which is going to give us a lot more performance on the overall. Next we concentrate on the GPU. So as you can see here, we've upped the core overclock by 65 megahertz. Seeing as it's an FTW, it's already got quite decent clocks to begin with. And then the memory clock, we bumped it up by 494 megahertz. So that gives us a total of 3000 megahertz. So double that to 6000 megahertz effective on the memory on the GPU. So we're going to see quite a big improvement over the stock clocks of the FTW as it is. But it just proves there is quite a bit of headroom in these lower end cards, and you'll see in the next few clips of the benchmarks that the temperatures are quite decent as well. Never see it go over 58 degrees Celsius. So now for the first benchmark, guys, Battlefield 4, just a quick run through, just so that we don't get any lag in the FPS with screen recording. I've decided to just put a camera in front of it until I've sorted out a solution for that. So you'll be able to see here the FPS is jumping around, but you'll see that it mainly plays at about 30 to 40 FPS in the regions of, so it's very decent to play on, and these are on full ultra settings. The only thing I've got turned off is anti-aliasing, which is quite taxing on the graphics cards, and seeing as I'm playing just on a 1080p 42-inch TV, it's no big deal without the anti-aliasing. You don't notice as much of the pixelation. Now we're moving on to the second benchmark, which is Tomb Raider. Was released back in 2012. All I've done here, guys, is just run the benchmark on the game itself. So you can see we get a minimum FPS of 42.6 and a maximum of 66 with an average of 55. So it's extremely playable. You'll see that the graphics card is not getting any hotter than 54 degrees Celsius here, even though we are overclocked quite highly. So now we're moving on to some Bioshock. So this is just a run through of the initial first level. Just a quick run through, get a few numbers. You'll see that we're running quite constant as well. A few jumps in the FPS here and there depending on what's happening around, but very, very playable nonetheless. Both Bioshock and Tomb Raider were run on full settings. Again, Tomb Raider, the only thing that's off is Stress Effects, which is really taxing on the graphics card. And then on both games, the anti-aliasing is off, seen as it's so taxing. So we're getting just pure FPS here, so we can really have an enjoyable experience of playing the games without really, sacrificing any graphics at all. So it is a very, very decent PC. Alright guys, so now for some Crysis 2. So this will be my final gameplay benchmark. So you can see the graphics card is handling this like a dream. I mean, the temperatures are really, really calm with a 40 degrees Celsius. Very minimal graphics card usage with this game. But you will see the FPS are quite high, so 60 FPS constant, which is really, really nice. The core, you can see, it's jumping around in the megahertz, and it's because it finds that it doesn't need that full utilization of the 1450 megahertz. So yeah, I could have picked a better game as a last benchmark, but I'll be doing that a bit later. So we use this PC mainly for media. So we use XMBC, which is a very popular media library program. So we mainly use it for that purpose, watching movies like Netflix, streaming TV shows. But we also run an ARC server off there, so I'll be doing a video about that at some point in time, about gameplay and also how to set up a server and all that, the very easy way, very basic way. It's much better having your own dedicated server than it is, playing on other people's, depending on depending on your region or your preference. So here we got a few last benchmarks here. So we got Unigine Heaven and Unigine Valley. So these are the final benchmarks here. So you can see the scores are pretty decent for the type of PC it is. I will be posting a video at some point as well, how to overclock this particular CPU a bit higher, seeing as I have another PC in the house with the exact same CPU that's running at a much higher clock, also running a different graphics card. So I'll be doing a video about that maybe in the few weeks to come, and then I'll do a final video on my desktop, which is the i7 980 edition, and the two GTX 980s as well in SLI. So stay posted, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and don't forget to like down below if you liked it. You can comment on the video as well if there's anything you'd like to see, more benchmarks or just a few questions, or answer them. And don't forget to subscribe as well for more content. So we'll be releasing a few videos in the coming week.